Well, hey everybody.
Hi.
Hi to our audience members so far. My name is Spencer Camacho. We are speaking today at B PHL Innovation Fest. And what I'd like to first do is introduce each other as the board members of Music Service Learning. So I'll start off just saying that my name is Spencer Camacho, and I am a part of the Founders Executive Board and also act as the interdisciplinary advisor.
Yeah, my name is Adam Gumble. I'm one of the Founders Executive Board members here at Music Service Learning, and I'm also a professor of music education at Westchester University. And prior to being at Westchester University, I taught music education in Pennsylvania public schools for 15 years.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Ryals, and I'm also a member of the Founders Board for Music Service Learning. And I have been a music teacher for a number of years, and I'm a professor, adjunct professor at Westchester University, and I'm also finishing up my PhD this year in music education. So, yay, at Temple University.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And I'm Marci Major, and I'm the founder and director of Music Service Learning, although I think that title really is shared by all of us because it really has been a true collaborative effort from the start. And outside of Music Service Learning, I am chair of music education and music therapy at Westchester University, which is kind of the link that unites us all here at the table. Spencer graduated with his undergrad from Westchester, and so that is what connected us all, but I think Music Service Learning really has what solidified our bond together.
Yeah, and if we're talking about music service learning, I want to first just start as our quick one-sentence elevator pitch of who we are. And essentially, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we value collegiate students and what they get to offer and offer music education. So we focus on mutual beneficial programs and projects where all voices in these projects that we put together, whether they are like K through 12 schools, universities, businesses, other nonprofits, that they all are able to work together and share their voice. So before we go any further, what I do want to point out that this is the first time in 18 months since we started that all four of us are in a room together.
Oh my gosh,
It's true.
We've never sat in a room together before.
that's shocking.
Many
crazy
Zoom
is that?
meetings,
Yes.
many Zoom meetings together, but never in person.
Not all four of us, yeah. And I think that kind of goes to show what kind of time we're in right now and what can still come from it and what can be learned from it, as opposed to necessarily thinking like we have to play catch up, but like, all right, how do we shift gears? And I think that's what our topic today really is about. We signed up with B PHL, and we were looking at this idea of collaborative ideation, and we had a hefty workshop all planned out, and then 2 days before, some gears had to shift because of the pandemic. And now, instead of having an audience member of 40, we have one currently here with us today, AutumnRose.
Shout out to AutumnRose.
And which is amazing, but thinking, all right, well, let's kind of take a step back and think about what that means for us and why we're actually here today. I think in music education a lot we talk about this idea of concert versus concept, and I think that can be also related to people outside of that idea of product versus process. I know Adam and I, we talked a lot about that. Can you kind of explain what concert versus concept means?
Yeah, sure. In music education, in some, traditionally found in public schools, especially when it comes to having ensembles. Large ensembles are a huge part of music education in public schools across the country. And, they often put on concerts and for the public, and they're incredible. I came up through ensembles and putting on concerts, and that's what really lit my fire, that idea of performance, performing in front of an audience. Sometimes the way that we get to the concerts isn't necessarily as educationally sound as maybe we would want it to be. We start teaching students the notes and the rhythms to put on the concert rather than the musical concepts that are really embedded beyond the concert, right, that allow them to put on other concerts. So, when we talk to our students, I know we talk to them at Westchester all the time, when we talk to any of the students that we meet out and about, we really want to make sure that everybody understands the value of focusing on the concepts that lead to a successful concert, right? Not just the product at the end, but the process in which you engage to get to that product, and and celebrating not just the product at the end, but moreover the progress along the way. If all we're valuing is the end product, then we really fail to be able to reap all of the value educationally, personally, from a growth standpoint that exists in the process along the way.
I see you smiling out there, right? Does that strike a chord?
I was a band geek. I love music. It was something that-
AutumnRose, do you actually mind, if you don't mind sitting up here, just so
You'll be in our-
we can capture the audio and all that you have to share with us.
Join our table.
But I got my first drum set when I was 4. So I was bred a drummer. Both my uncles were drummers in bands. I grew up with music. I suffered from manic depression and anxiety as a young kid, and it factors today, but as a child, you don't know how to cope with that. You don't know how to deal with that. And music was my escape. Like, that's a huge reason why I wanted to come in here, because I love hearing how other people have changed their life because of music and everything. So listening to you talk about band and ensemble, and it just reminded me of being in the uniforms and playing up there on the stage. But my band teacher, Mr. Madej, is the reason that music changed my life, because it wasn't just a concert. He literally will stop class and take one kid and be like, what do we need to learn? I can see that you're struggling. How can I help you?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it wasn't to single anybody out, and he let us know that. It was to help us individually, because sometimes you can't do it as a group. He's like, we're all one voice. Each of us have our own, but put them together and we sound beautiful. And so he actually ended up retiring the year that I graduated, and I had the honor of putting all of our names on the band room wall. And as I was painting his, I started to bawl. I'm on a 6-foot ladder crying in the band room. And he comes out, he's like, Autumn, what's going on? And I was like, our voices are leaving together. We started this together, and they're leaving together. And it hit me hard. I was like, Mr. Madej, you were my band teacher from the moment I stepped in the school until the moment I graduated. And the same day I cried with him because we played our favorite song, and he wasn't gonna let us play it because it was Zoot Suit Riot. It's a song that's upbeat. It's not a graduation song at any means. And I looked at him and I was like, all of the seniors decided, this is our song. He didn't even conduct. He's like, you guys know what you're doing. I'm gonna let you take the stage. And he stepped to the side during graduation, and we all played our hearts out. Everybody, not just the seniors, but everybody did. And it made me realize how much music actually moved our class. Because it wasn't, this person's in this group, this person's in this group, this person's in this group. We're all in band, and we're gonna play our hearts out whether we want to or not. And it was amazing. So yeah, we celebrated our concerts up into the concert because we would want to help each other.
Right.
We wanted to show our passion. It wasn't just, oh, we're in band class, I'm gonna play what I want to play. No, it was I'm gonna put my soul into this, and I want it to show.
And you weren't focused, you were focused on the idea of creating something together and of working together and of sharing together, not in making a note perfect, rhythm perfect product at the end, but you were really able to reap the value along the way.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful tribute also. What was his name?
Mr. Madej.
Mr. Madej?
Mike Madej was his actual
Mike Madej.
name.
Shout out to Mike Madej.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. And we hope that everybody that we have a chance to interact with, really understands that value, because you're here today sharing this beautiful story. It obviously is part of the fabric of who you are at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really what we try to do. By collaborating with so many people and making sure that our students understand that that's really the point. It's not, and when we're preparing our own concerts, of course we want them to be great,
Yeah.
right? We never want to diminish the value of having something that is a great representation of what a composer wanted, or something that is artistic, aesthetically absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But really in music education, what we want to do is touch people's lives the way that Mr. Madej did yours. So that's
Yes.
wonderful.
And I love that. In my opinion, we don't have the teaching system like that anymore. I actually just graduated college. Like, I got my diploma in the mail yesterday.
Yay,
congratulations.
I was out on the road yelling, not even joking. Like, I swear people drove by was like, is she okay? And it's just one of those things of graduating college is a huge step.
Yeah.
But looking back at where I came from to do that, I actually talked to one of the performers yesterday in a workshop, and she plays the violin beautifully. She's a sophomore in high school, and you would think she played in orchestras for her entire life. And I looked at her and I was like, I hope you don't find this weird, but do you love what you do? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, is the violin your passion? Do you love it? Does it take you to different places? And she's like, oh yeah, that's why I like playing. That's why I'm so glad I got to do this today. I was like, don't stop. No matter what anybody tells you, whether it's 30 minutes each day or for your best friend across the seas, don't stop playing. I told her, I was like, when I got to college, I stopped playing. And part of me died inside because I look back and I'm like, could I even pick up drumsticks again? And yes, theoretically, it's like driving a bike. Definitely could do that again because it's in your brain. You can't get rid of it. But I know I wouldn't be as good as I was because I would need to get back into that rhythm. Ironic.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. But I told her, I was like, if there's anything that you can learn from someone here today at B PHL, is never give up your passion because it can take you so much further than you could ever believe. Because my uncles are still playing the drums today in their own bands, and they're taking gigs every weekend at the age of 40s, almost 50s. So it's like, I know I can come back to it, but where would I be today if I would have stuck with it?
Well, and to the point of you talking about how the moment with Mr. Madej, it wasn't just for the seniors or just for him, but everybody that was involved. Thinking about how that band room or that choir room looked, not every single person there might have been like, I'm leaving and I'm running with music for the rest of my life. But it still was reaching them because music was acting as that vehicle. And that's something that I learned a lot from Marci in my undergrad years of talking about how as educators we have a responsibility not to say, hey, we want to sell music to you and make you buy into it and say like music is everything, but we want to use that as our resource, as our framework to help grow good people. And I think that is a shift that is very difficult to do when the priority of either the administration of your building or expectations from other teachers is you need to have a good product, you need to have a good concert. And I think, Marci, if you want to speak any more to that.
Well, I think we can relate this so easily because you're not in music anymore, right? But that concept probably still plays true in your life, right? You know, you're putting on this festival, right? Would you want us to see everything that was happening, leading up to this event? Or is it about the end product? It's about what we see here. But we really believe that there is so much value in what happens in the process leading up to any event, leading up to concerts for us, but conference for you, right?
Perfect
and how do we work collaboratively to really celebrate the growth and the collaboration and the innovation that happens in that process for any organization. And I think that has been the biggest journey for us in coming up with music service learning and trying to figure out, well, what are we going to show the world as our product, but also how are we going to talk about how we got there and how we celebrate our growing and our failures and our successes and the things that make us scared and the things that make us excited, and all of that is part of it.
It's so easy to talk about the finished product. It really is. Like if we think about it, it's so easy, like, yeah, we're going to do this. But it gets so nitpicky when you want to talk about how you got there because you want to make sure you don't say the quote unquote wrong thing.
Yeah.
Even though in reality there's no wrong thing. It was your journey to get there. And if someone wants to look at it and go, oh, that doesn't seem right, that's their opinion. But look at where you are today because you made it where you wanted to. And you're going to continue to grow and flourish with it. And that's all that matters. It's the people that question it in a negative way that clearly didn't have an open enough mindset to how you got to your journey because every story is different for a reason.
Yeah, and that open-mindedness, that has been one of the key words we return to again and again when we think about what has continued to make this successful. It's not the fact that we've had endless amounts of successes. In fact, I would argue the opposite. You know, like we put things up on social media and 2 people look at them and we think, oh, that didn't work out very well. Or we launch a program and 4 people sign up and we're thinking, uh-oh, you know. But it's this fact that we keep an open mind about it. We keep a positive attitude about it. We reinvent, you know, we move forward.
Exactly.
I think that with being musicians, we fear taking a step in the wrong direction because of the sense of backtracking that needs to happen. And that, of course, is a part of the process of getting to your product. And I think a great example of us being very willing to shift gears is what we're doing right now. Our idea coming in again was collaborative ideation through music education. And Lauren, I don't know if you want to speak just briefly about like how we kind of entered that mindset, or like what our idea was before we shifted gears to like what we are actually doing right now.
Yeah, we originally were hoping to have a team of people in our session work together. Well, I guess many different teams working together to collaborate and solve a problem that we posed. And so that whole idea of being presented a problem, and then the teams in our session to answer that and to collaborate and to figure out ways to solve it with their own personal stories and their journeys and their organizations that they're from, or wherever they are coming from. So so then we pivoted to this setting because of the situation with COVID and everything. So
Yeah, and I think what Adam and I talked a lot about leading into this week was, are we focusing too much on the product of our participation in this event as a moment to sell ourselves? You know, we have an expectation to expose who we are and kind of sell it in a business format. And I mean, we can totally dig into our whole business accelerator experience, and like, you know, we're coming at this nonprofit organization from the case of 4 music educators. So there's a lot for us to still learn in that setting as well. But I guess how would, you know, any 3 of you kind of talk about that with our shift from product of what we were trying to bring here to process and us having a conversation right now?
I'm going to hop back, and I think
Sure.
I'll end up answering that question directly. But the idea of being afraid. So like you're afraid to make a mistake, right? And I think a lot of that, you know, I don't want to play a wrong note, right? I don't want to play a wrong rhythm. And this idea of right notes and wrong notes, and right and wrong and right and wrong. And if there's something that I've learned I would say very recently, maybe through the last, we've been around for 18 months, 19 months, arguably, depending on when the paperwork was filed or something, you know, whatever. It's not, right and wrong is such a value judgment. And it doesn't really exist. It shrouds, I think, or it adds opacity to our lenses when we think of things that are right and things that are wrong, and it adds fear that we really don't need to have, right? If we make a mistake, that's okay, right? It's not necessarily right or wrong. It's this whole broad spectrum of things that are effective and could be effective for different people depending on who they are and how they are observers of the world. And that might sound like really wild, like, well, yeah, but there are right notes and wrong notes. But I think that is what I was looking at as we were pivoting here. It's like, well, what we do isn't going to be right or wrong, right? What's going to be effective for us, what's going to help us grow, it's not going to be a mistake, right? Whatever we do, whatever we choose to do is going to help us grow. And hopefully, in this kind of conversation, this kind of collaborative process is going to have an impact on our live studio audience, whoever that may be. And hopefully it's going to have, you know, if we use this kind of interview setting, this podcast kind of format that we're looking at here, is that going to have a greater impact, right? It's not necessarily what we were planning on, but that doesn't mean it was wrong, right?
Sure.
We pivot to something that is going to be, a spectrum of effectiveness. What we were going to do would be incredibly ineffective given the pivot that we ended up making, right? So we went with something that we felt like would be more effective for us, for the people that we're serving here. And then, of course, hopefully, if this is deployed for public consumption at some point, for folks who are out there listening. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really great points, and I feel like what we usually do as a board when we meet every week is really, of course, trying to brainstorm, trying to, of course, troubleshoot what we've been working on together. But I don't really remember the last time we all, definitely not sat together, but all Zoomed together, and we all had a conversation just about like what we are, what we do, or like what we care about, and why we're doing this. And there's a balance, of course, of like, we have so much that needs to happen, and there's so many fires, and I have no fire extinguisher, but we can get very tunnel visioned. And I think because of that, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to actually talk about like, why are we even doing music service learning? Mm-hmm. So, I kind of want to bounce that to Marci and just hear your thoughts. I mean, this was your brainchild, of course. We cannot deny that. So, where are you sitting kind of with all this and just being at an Innovation Fest in general?
Yeah, it's funny. I've kind of been reflecting on this, and I thought there should be a podcast series on like the topic of the things I didn't expect, right? Because this organization, every story would be something I didn't expect, both positive and negative, right? There have been positive things that I didn't expect, and there have been some things that I was like, wait a second, I would have never expected that, and I didn't plan for that, but now it's happening, and we have to adjust and pivot. And so I think where I am right now is the best piece of advice I've been given from friends who have heard me laugh and cry and bounce off the walls and also want, to pull the covers over my head and give it all up, has been to stay focused on the mission, right? And so I find myself always going back to that piece, like, wait a second, product, process, whatever, what is it exactly that we're trying to do? And this idea that we believe that college students have something to contribute to the field, right? And that there's not this magic line at graduation where they go from pre-professional to professional, and that we want everybody to be able to have access to those opportunities, that we want there to be no barrier that would prevent a student from being able to give what they have, to support teachers and businesses and nonprofits, musical, in our field. And I think at the beginning I had a vision of what I thought it was going to be, and now I'm realizing that I don't know the vision, and that's okay, right? We just kind of take each event as we do it, and then we turn it into the next version.
But at the beginning, to be fair, at the beginning, the necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the, godmother of innovation or something. I don't know, whatever. But we found that we were being hit by, shutdowns in schools at, March 2020. So that was really when this was kick-started into high gear. And at that point, it was really all about taking what the college students had, which was, their tails are wagging really fast. They're really excited about the idea of helping, of being music educators, and they have a whole different outlook on life. They look through the world through different lenses than the folks who were really in need of help at that moment, which were the people out there in the field of music education who were going, everything I know is now being completely affected in a way that I am not comfortable with. They were moving online. They were not seeing their students. They were wondering, they didn't know which end was up at that point. And of course, what we were trying to do was help, right? We were trying to provide that assistance. We were trying to take folks that we knew had something to give in our college students and try to connect them and put them in collaborative settings where they could come up, help brainstorm, collaboratively ideate things that needed to happen to serve those folks that were out there on the front lines who were trying to do what was best for their students, which I think that was the mission then and there. It was, we need to get this off the ground. We need to get the wheels of the plane off the tarmac as soon as possible so that we can provide the assistance that's needed to both of these people that we care a whole lot about. We still care a whole lot about them. The world looks different today than it did 18 months ago. And I think a lot of the the turbulence, I guess if you want to keep rolling with the airplane thing, like the turbulence has been the ebb and the flow as people figure things out, as the modalities have shifted, as, and trying to move along with the ever-changing, with the plane being in the air at 30,000 feet and then 25,000 feet and then, oh wait, this another front is coming in, another wave is coming in, we're gonna have to shift again. Having to move along with that, the fact that we are collaborating with so many people whose tails are still wagging really fast, and so many people out there now in the field who have figured other things out, now it's like, oh, well, now it's not, now we all have something to give. We all have something to gain. The experiences of these folks who are out in the field, who have gone through this with different lenses on, is going to help these folks who are trying to help. The synergy that exists there is absolutely beautiful. It's incredibly frustrating at times. It's not exactly what you expect, but isn't that the world in which we live?
Well, talking about this challenge too that you're talking about, I think one of the most difficult Band-Aids that we had to rip off as an organization is saying, are we a pandemic-based organization? Mm-hmm. Is our sole mission to support educators that are struggling directly because of the coronavirus? Mm-hmm. And how do we shift away from that language? How can we still be that support? And it goes back to what Marci was saying with we're coming in with a very strong mission idea and watching that kind of fluctuate, and what you're speaking about, Adam, as well, and saying like, okay, we're meeting people where they're at and trying to provide where we can. But then how do we then allow our mission statement or our mission to us evolve? Because of course, such a big role in all of this is language and how we actually talk about our organization. And if we aren't sharing that same language, or we aren't allowing that to change because of fear of something, where are we left? And then how do we move forward?
That's a great question.
So that's a toughie.
Well, and you
I think
can
we're
also
still trying to figure it out.
For sure, and you can also enter into, and I think I think every organization that I've ever been a part of has been guilty of something that I call, and a lot of other people call, paralysis through analysis, right? So you look at it and you're going, okay, what is this? All right, what could this be? You're standing at a crossroads. Which way do I go? And you start to look down those pathways. Well, something that's interesting here is that nobody has been down this pathway before, so nobody can help illuminate the darkness that exists down that pathway. So we need to take our most educated, what are we now? Okay, we're going to go down here. Okay, well, we're kind of that, but now we want to go down this other pathway and see what's going on down there. And it's constantly helping us to mold what it is that we are. It's helping us to figure out what this is and make sure that it's as valuable as it can be for the different people that we're involving. And I think one of the things that we discovered over this past summer was that we really want to make sure that we are providing a great user experience, as positive a user experience as we can for our students that are involved, right? We want to make sure that that is the priority, that we are serving our collegiate students who are involved in this organization so they can be as strong as they can to provide the best possible supports for those people that we're putting them into contact with out in the field. And I think that we've seen some really tremendous results as we've re-engaged with that mission multiple times.
But what's been so interesting, and this is something I am constantly reflecting on, are that the things that we think that our collegiate students need are not necessarily the things that they think they need, right? Mm-hmm. And so often we look at teacher preparation programs and we think, well, this is about getting collegiate students to work with K-12 students, right? And we're always forgetting that piece of the teacher, of the K-12 teacher. And I've begun to shift my focus a little bit, and even my language, Spencer, in response to your point, in saying, actually, we are an organization where our collegiate students, we call them interns, our collegiate interns, are here to help teachers. right? And through that, they might be helping K-12 students, right? They might work with K-12 students. They might have opportunities to do things with K-12 students. But really, the focus is to allow them to help teachers and whatever teachers need. And that, I think, has led to the programming that we have now, which seems to be our most successful programming to date.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask AutumnRose a question. Hearing us talk about this and our process through all of this, we're not unique in the sense that we're the only ones dealing with what the world has been dealing with, right, over the past 18 months. However, there are people on different ends of it, right? You were a student, collegiate student getting ready to graduate, and also at the same time, even though we're a year plus in, preparing to put an event like this together. And how do you feel like your role, or maybe just your feeling about the whole matter, has shifted or changed like through those two very different experiences?
Okay, I definitely get that. And like you said, everyone is different. And I actually, through the whole pandemic process, I lived with 6 people at one point in time, and my best friend and her boyfriend and I actually just moved out into our own apartment, us 3, because we weren't ever worried. All of us in the house were safe, but going through a pandemic with pretty much 5 of your friends is a very interesting time, because you have 5 different opinions then conversing and talking and constantly, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And we had the spectrum in our household. It was amazing. Like, I honestly didn't expect it. Like, you can kind of like sense something, but you never want to just flat out say it. Well, we were all in the kitchen one night, and we had one person on the spectrum of I don't believe. We had it's really serious and we should take it serious, like and then we had the stay home, you're gonna die. Like, it literally was the broad spectrum of what everyone believed in. And I came to the conclusion of, this is something where if we get it, we'll take those steps and we'll process it. But I'm not going to let my education be affected by this. I still showed up to classes, even though it was hard. Like, I'm not going to lie. I went to a polytechnic school. The University of Wisconsin-South is known as a polytechnic school. So going there, I was like, yeah, hands-on. I'm a great hands-on learner. As a musician, we all are. And that's how my mindset always was. If I can see it, 9 times out of 10, I'll do it right back for you. I might ask another question to make sure I do it correctly, but seeing it is more feasible for me to replay it better or even just learn it better. And so I was constantly emailing teachers. I was constantly asking for extra help just because I didn't want my education to suffer. And I almost got a 4.0 the second semester into the pandemic. And that told me, I was like, okay, we're pushing. And I was like, I know I'm not the only kid that's doing this, but I even would go to my little brothers who were in elementary school and middle school at the time, and I was like, guys, you need to push. I was like, I know it sucks, because all they would say is, I hate school, I don't want to be on my computer, the typical kid things. And Taylor, my oldest little brother, is in band, and he was able to play his instrument still. He would be on a Zoom call with him, and he was like, it's weird, but I'm happy I still get to play. And as an older sister, I was like, yeah, yeah, because you don't know what that's like not playing with a band anymore. You're one voice now by yourself. Because let me tell you, playing with your fellow classmates over a Zoom call, not feasible. And it does not sound good at all. But having that strength to push through these classes is really what helped me, because I applied to 60 internships. Independence Blue Cross and a Mary Health Administrator was my 60th internship application. And they were the only one that said yes. They interviewed me, and the process went great. And I worked remotely out of Wisconsin the entire time. I didn't get to meet anybody from a Mary Health, and I didn't get to meet any of my coworkers. Arriving here Tuesday was the first day I met any coworker that I've worked with in my first internship ever. And that is weird. Like, it is so weird. And I did a typical intern thing today. I went and got bagels, and I was happy about it. How weird is that? And it's the aspect of, I finally got to experience what you see as an intern, what you hear as an intern. They go get coffee, they get the brunt end of the work. But in reality, we didn't. In reality, it's helping you see what you can be doing, but also you're in the background getting to see big picture things. So helping put this festival together, I was literally just thrown into it. I was taken from my marketing internship, and they're like, hey, do you still want to work for us? I was like, oh yeah, I love independence. Sure, what do you got? Here you go. And it was a meeting with Michelle and Nick, and they literally took 2 hours to explain to me what was going on, what we were doing, and how we were going to do it. And I was like, bring it on. I wanted to run with it. I want to make a difference.
Well, exactly what you're talking about. I think it clicked in Adam's head, and he was about to say the same exact thing. But like, again, we're talking about process and the opportunity experience we want to provide. And Adam, I will let you take it away.
No. What clicked with me was when you said, I went and got bagels, and I was so happy to go and get bagels because I wanted to do that thing. And I thought back to, a lot of our students who volunteered with the organization, with MSL, and they were so happy just to be making a difference and doing something, at the very beginning. And then as we started to move through it, I think a lot of students felt the way that your younger siblings did, where it was like, oh, I'm sick of being on the computer. I'm sick of doing it. I just want to do, I don't care what it is. I want to go back and I want to do the thing in class. I want to, go through those rituals and have those experiences that other people are having. So that's what resonated with me. And when I was kind of like, oh, we experienced that for sure. And now it's funny because we're on the other side and some people are like, oh man, I wish we could be back on Zoom for some of these things. And I wish, so that's where I was, that's what I was
We're
thinking.
talking about a pandemic limitation as well, where like in my head, I'm thinking about what Marci was saying of like, student teaching aside, what experience our collegiate students are able to actually engage with and actually be in the field and not feel like a student, but like to say like a part of my experience building and preparing for this degree is actually doing it and not wait until the very end of like, here's the little trial video you see of how to jump out of a parachute while you're on the plane. Like, not that, but actually saying like, okay, from the get-go, how can we get these students involved? Like, yeah, I guess they haven't been teaching yet, but they also have gone through 12 years of school. Like they see, they learn, they understand the environment. So I feel like that's the big shift we're trying to make too, where we're not saying we just want to provide experiences despite COVID, but we want to provide experiences despite them being collegiate students.
Right. They don't have to wait until they're a junior or a senior to go out and student teach. They can be doing things right away.
And making a difference right away.
Exactly. And using the skills that they've developed, taking those experiences, whatever they can offer. Everybody has something to offer. And they can get out there right away and get into a diverse, have a diversity of experiences throughout. They're not just going to be in one school while they're student teaching. They're not just going to be in another school when they have some field experiences. They can literally, be in dozens of different environments and going back to those lenses again, start to see the world through different lenses in different school communities or different business communities, different artistic communities, whatever they are, so that then they're in a position to hopefully better serve their students moving forward, regardless of the community that they end up with, right? They're going to be able to help shape those lenses of their future students or shade those lenses in a way that the traditional collegiate music education experience isn't yet equipped to do. So that's really where the innovation, a lot of the innovation in our organization comes from, for sure.
And I was going to ask, how do we then, with everything you're talking about, how do we sew in this idea of collaborative ideation? Like what parts of that are being fostered by this idea of creative innovation? What are your guys' thoughts with that?
I think that, I go back to the idea of creativity in music education versus recreativity in music education. There are actually like some signs up in this room right now that I want to, like, I took pictures of them before, like, and I want to take all these quotes and, and share them with the folks involved in our organization, right? A lot of music, a lot of traditional, it's traditional for a reason. It's worked really well for a long time, and people love it. I mean, I am a product of traditional music education, and I went to school for it, and that's what I want to do, and and there is a ton of value in this, in that ensemble experience, and making, that is so important. We can impact lives in so many ways, but a lot of it is based on recreativity and recreating something else, right? Taking a composer's music and recreating it. or taking this idea of what has already been and recreating it to the best of our ability. And a lot of times we miss out, or we're just not aware of the creative opportunities that exist. We're not tapping into those creative opportunities because we're focused on the concert, or we're focused on the product, or we're focused on just carrying out this tradition, which is an incredible tradition in a lot of ways, but we lose sight of the idea of taking these gifts that people have and getting them to create something that is unique, right? Yeah. So when we put our students in a position to use their creative energy, or even just think about the idea that, a lot of what I have done is recreative, and that's okay. I love it. That's great, and I want to share that with others, but I am capable of creating something special, and I am capable of creating art. I am capable of, using my experiences in this world and putting something else out there that shares that with someone else, rather than trying to work hard to share somebody else's material.
Yeah, and I think it scares them. I think
totally.
I think that's where
it scares me.
Yeah, we've gotten some. I don't want to say resistance. That's probably too strong of a word, but just some questioning or some pushback.
I think we've done some.
Totally.
Yeah, some resistance from some of our interns who we put them in these situations and they say, "But this is hard," or "But I don't know what to like." Well, tell me what to do, my response is that's the whole point. The whole point is that you are creative and innovative and you figure out what to do. And so much of college has been filling them with how to and with the knowledge that when it comes time to apply that, it seems really scary. And
well, Marci, you talk about in the classroom the balance between management and empowerment, and that's also something that is totally stuck with me.
So glad my lectures have stuck with me.
Oh my gosh! I mean, the whole reason why I'm here, part of this organization, is because of how much I valued my time in your classrooms, and
awesome.
it just really. I was like, I can keep doing this, and like with you, I was like, okay, like where do we start? When do I start? And I mean, talking about the idea of management versus empowering students, I mean, I think that's something that you're trying to do for your interns and for our interns, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to model the way that I want them to teach. And it's scary.
AKA the process.
I'm trying to model for them this process that I want them to feel empowered. I want them to know that they can be a valuable contributor, but that we can't necessarily define what that's going to look like. And that's really hard, but I want them to go out and do that for students, right? And so if they've experienced it and they come out successful, then I feel like they're going to go into their classrooms and they're going to continue that tradition.
Yeah. Well, listen, we have a few minutes left. We didn't take any time really to talk about everything that we're doing, and for me, that was pretty much on purpose. I mean, we have Practice Pals, a program that we started this past week or so. MSL hires around the corner. We have our capital campaign going on. There are so many goals and milestones and products for us. So I think the last question I just want to ask is, with all of this, and of course, if it's going to get done, like, we have to get it done. The four of us have to get it done. But where are we going to try to balance these big products that we have going on and having conversations like about this process and taking moments of reflection?
I think we should just come to B PHL every week.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I would thoroughly, like if you guys had a podcast, I would listen to it. No joke. Like your brains are so beautiful and they're open-minded and you want all of these ideas to flow freely, which is great because I feel like, I call it the childlike mindset, but it's really the creative mindset. People are losing it. Because let's be real, as a child, you are so creative. You have best friends you don't even see. Like, it's amazing because as we get older, we let now social media and everyone around us shift that, where you guys can openly talk about your music and how you want to change and how you want to impact your students' lives. And that's amazing because coming from the school setting, I could learn even more just from listening to you guys talk about your process and how you want it to be.
How much of social media, you bring up social media, it's like, how much of that feeds into the idea of wanting to recreate? You see other people out there and it's like, oh, I want to recreate that for myself rather than being creative.
It's so
on your
interesting
own.
because I almost feel the exact opposite. I think it's this
That's great.
internal pressure I put on myself. No, I actually think it's terrible because I see, like, I think I've come up with this great idea, and then I see someone else doing it, and then I think, oh, we can't do that. It's already been done.
Yeah.
In fact, that's part of the reason how Practice Pals evolved, because we knew we didn't want to just be giving private lessons. I mean, there are lots of private lesson organizations. Our students can be part of any one of them. It is great for them to do. But so we thought we don't need to be another private lesson organization, right? And every time that we tried on a rendition or a size of that, it seemed like everybody just thought, oh, you're giving lessons. Oh, you're giving lessons. And how many times? I mean, Lauren and I were like, no, that's not what we're doing. And so there can be a lot of pressure and to the competitiveness to be so different, right? And I think for me, it's finding this balance of where do we fit in? Where is our impact, right? And how do we make that impact, like you said, without getting so bogged down with the product quote? Because you know firsthand, I mean, I have just been inundated with the to-do list, right?
But to be fair,
Yeah.
I mean, the wheels of this organization need to turn.
Somebody has to.
Somebody has to turn it.
Somebody has to have the to-do list.
Yeah.
However, you look at the people up top in organizations, and there are people that take a very product focus and a very process focused, and they run very differently. And I appreciate the time at a festival like this today, where we can engage with each other and be like, okay, how, you know, we're at our 18-month mark. I think that's so neat. So like, where are we turning now? And like, where is it going to kind of, you know, toggle? Because I think that's important. These things need to get done, but the ideas for them to happen are in moments like this, not in the to-do list itself.
Yeah, and for us to continue to reflect and innovate on how we're going to change, you know, and how we're going to just meet the tide as it comes in, you know, without it crashing over us. So.
Well, I hope regardless of who our listener is, if they are a musician, if they're an educator, if they are a current intern or a current graduate, or somebody unrelated to any of that, that they are able to reflect on our process of talking about our either struggles with our organization or what we've been trying to overcome, how we've looked at our mission and tried to evolve that and change that, and how we choose to collaborate with each other, because I feel like that's what today for us really is about, whether it's one person listening, 50, 100, or nobody, because that collaboration, that authenticity of connecting with each other is what we're really looking to do. So
Yeah, we're so lucky we found this team. You know, I think every time we're going to have a meeting, I'm actually excited because I can't wait to put an idea into our think tank and then see how it comes out on the other end, right? And it's so amazing, like just to be able to find that space where you know you're not going to be judged, where you know you can laugh or cry. You've all seen me do both, and where you know that we can just work together to create something better, and that every step of it's going to be beautiful. That's awesome.
yeah. Well, do we have any final thoughts from anybody here, from our audience member or our board?
Just want to say thanks.
Yeah,
Oh.
thank you.
Yeah.
There's
stuck
nothing to
with
thank
it.
me. I want to
No,
thank
it's
you
great.
guys, because this is an opportunity that a lot of people clearly didn't take. And I'm not being like, oh, you didn't take this. It's more of a, you're missing out on something great, because you get to hear 4 people, like-minded individuals, open-minded individuals, be at a vulnerable state. Admit what has been tough, but then come back and be like, but we're still molding, we're still changing. And that's what I constantly was thinking. Like, the first question that I had for you guys is the only question that I have. And you mentioned about reflecting. And that's what I feel like this Innovation Fest is supposed to do. And my question for you guys as a team is, how much reflecting did it take for you guys to come here today? How much risk did you think it was putting yourself out here and having people hear what you had to say was?
I think this is the single most scary conference proposal we put in. In fact, I would say it caused us the most tension we've maybe had as a group in thinking about what we wanted to do. Normally, we speak to an audience of music educators. We know how to talk to them. We know what they want to hear. We know
Got the PowerPoint figured out.
Yep,
you
we
got
have all of our
you
jargon,
got the beats,
all
you got
of our
that.
buzzwords.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we're really good at that. But thinking about what we wanted to do and thinking about that we had no product, we didn't know how this was going to go today, whether we did the presentation we had planned or whether we did this one. We were texting this morning, wait, what are we doing again?
Well, I thought that was the beauty of us walking into this conversation, is that when Adam and I started talking about restructuring how we wanted to go about this, I said, all right, well, I'll create the framework, and I'm not going to tell you what the framework is for our conversation today, because we didn't want something product planned, like what the last one was going to be. We're going in asking questions that we already had expected answers to. And today, we were like, let's not do that.
Today was
The three of you do not know what.
more creative as opposed to recreative.
Yeah.
Today was more process versus product, which I think was the overarching idea. Like that was the point.
Yeah.
And I think that the plane landed pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for you guys. Like, as a college person, it feels weird saying that because I look up to you. Like, I've only sat here for 45 minutes and I already look up to all four of you because you took the time to be vulnerable, but I can guarantee as soon as you guys step out of this place tomorrow, you're going to grow even more because you got to experience a festival of open, creative mindedness. And that's what you all have. And you embrace it and you encourage others to embrace it. And we need more people like that. Because I feel like the more closed-minded the world gets, the darker the place is. And we're in a time of trial. Like, everyone is either emotionally or sick or physically, it's something or another. But being able to put music, which I consider light, into the world because it makes a certain type of emotion form in you, you can change someone's life for the better, even if it is just by one conversation. Because it can change their mind and their thinking around, and the next day they go from being so sad and depressed to, I'm a fighter, I got this. And that's what you guys are. You're not going to let anybody else stomp you down, tell you what you guys are doing is weird or wrong or however they feel. You know where you want to be. You might not know the exact goal you have, but you guys are willing to mold and shape and change as the world is changing, and that is super important. The fact that you're not going to let the world stop you and squish you and make you flat and normal like everybody else. No, you're going to be this weird blob of positivity and light, and how can we change with you, and how can we change to help you or help us? That's so important, because if you just get null and void, you'll be lost in the pack with the rest of them. You're staying ahead of everybody.
Well, I could not sum it up better myself.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You can expect to hear you on our next podcast. MSL Exec Live with AutumnRose.
It's
All
just
right.
an honor to sit here with you guys.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
We're
you.
glad
So
that we
glad
got
you
to do
came.
this and that you got to be so hands-on with our material online and through this festival website. So thank you so much,
Yes.
and thank the three of you, the MSL Executive Board. And tune in to what we have in store on our website, musicservicelearning.org, and of course, any of our social media handles.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet. There we go.
Go team.